You're probably thinking, really? But yeah, stick with us. Hello, my name is Chris. I am one half of the Big Damn Cast here on the Big Damn channel on YouTube. We do a weekly podcast. It's all about popular culture from the voices and minds of two rather strange British nerds. So if you are up for that sort of thing, hey! I caught wind of the One Marvelous Scene playlist about a week ago, just after I'd seen Avengers Endgame, and it was a beautiful binge because I suddenly was not only rediscovering scenes that I didn't know I loved as much as I did within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I was also discovering new content creators. And what Nando V Movies has done here is given, video essayists and pop culture channels a chance to contribute to this conversation. And as such, Matt and I had a little chat and thought, there's one scene here that isn't being represented. I first saw Iron Man 3 in California in 2013. I was on holiday and it came out like that week. I avoided the internet for a week before because the UK got it early. And as a result, I was not spoiled at all. And I'm so glad of that because of one particular plot twist. For those who don't know or haven't seen the movie in a while, need a reminder, the Mandarin is a comic book villain from the Iron Man books primarily. In the comics, he is a mystical villain. In this film, he is a radical terrorist, very much harking to real organisations and figureheads from recent history. He's played by Ben Kingsley, and he's a frightening character to contend with, until Tony Stark actually meets him. You see, not only does it turn out that the Mandarin isn't real, he's completely fictitious and is portrayed by an actor, a squirmy little gentleman called Trevor Slattery.
Drew Pearce and Shane Black had a problem on their hands when they decided to use the Mandarin as the central villain of Iron Man 3. How do you put a character on screen in 2013 who has roots in the racist Yellow Peril caricatures and anti-communist scaremongering of the 50s and 60s? The world has come a long way since 1964, and although characters like the Mandarin have had most of their more problematic elements massaged out over the decades, going back to the early years of Marvel Comics reveals some very uncomfortable origins. So what's a filmmaker to do? Well, throw it out and do something completely different. The reveal that the Mandarin of Iron Man 3 is a fake terrorist leader created by a committee is a great approach that neatly sidesteps all the problems of the original character and subverts the audience's expectations. In fact, the whole scene in which the Mandarin is revealed is in itself a subversion. When it's discovered that the Mandarin is simply a performance by drunken actor Trevor Slattery, the audience is absolutely thrown for a loop. Although some people dislike this change for its infidelity to the source material, its fresh approach is what, to me, makes it so exciting. After giving us his menacing, sonorous villain, Ben Kingsley turns up as this reedy, slightly camp and perpetually confused jester. Downey Jr.'s rage as Tony Stark has almost no effect on him, and his genial ineffectuality is almost disarming.
This scene is a bold statement for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to make. Essentially what they're doing is saying, hey, we are going to adapt these comic books, which may not seem like too foreign a concept for comic book movies prior to the MCU beginning, but you have to remember, back in 2008, Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk entertained people, and for comic book fans, really impressed them with how accurate and loyal they were to the source material it was based on. That was a big criticism of comic book movies throughout the 90s, especially, was that they didn't actually take inspiration from the books beyond a name. The X-Men wore black leather and made a joke about the costumes, and it almost felt like the comic book source material, which these movies were based on, was delegitimized in a way. Daredevil, Elektra, the Fantastic Four, the later X-Men movies, Spider-Man 3, these were films that sort of took elements of the comic books, but then went, nah, not like that, you don't need to be like that. So, when Iron Man and Incredible Hulk came around, and then Iron Man 2 introducing or furthering character arcs like Nick Fury's and Black Widow, when these films came about, it was such a pleasant surprise to comic book fans, because it was like, oh my god, they're just translating what's on the page to film. and showing everyone why we love it. This is great. And it was great. And right up to the Avengers, it's pretty much like that throughout the whole thing. Sure, liberties are taken for the purpose of storytelling and condensing things down to an hour and 45-minute runtime. Like, the premise of Thor is not as straightforward as the movie Thor, but the spirit is there. Everything looks like it does on the page. So when Iron Man 3 comes along, suddenly with this one scene, the reveal of Trevor Slattery, and that the Mandarin is a fiction within the film, the MCU is going, hey, we're not sticking to the page exactly anymore. And by this point, they've earned your trust. I, as much as the next man, love the fact that they stick to the source material and just take that to the big screen and show people what we enjoy on the page. But you do need to adapt. You do need to surprise people. This was a bold statement from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that said, hey, we're going to play. And that's fine, really. The difference between now and, say, the 90s and the early 2000s is that these adaptations still retain the spirit of the books. And they still retain maintain a respect for the central characters. That's the journey we're on. You look at the MCU movies, they're about the heroes. There's only one exception to that, and it's Infinity War. But these films are about the good guys. That's why the bad guys sometimes fall by the wayside in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People think of them as, oh, they're not very good, they're not very well executed. However, before the twist, most people regarded this as the most striking and interesting Marvel villain so far, up to that point. Why wouldn't they pull the rug out from underneath us? Why wouldn't they take advantage of that and tell a story we weren't expecting? It was the third Iron Man movie. You don't want your formulas to get stale. You want them to stay fresh and change things up. What better way to do that than to say, hey, thanks for the ride so far. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to do things a bit differently now. Oh, we got the rug. Oh, you're on the floor. Oh dear. You're going to come along, aren't you? And we did.
The bait and switch of tension for sudden comedy is a typical Shane Black move. And what it sort of shows is a post-Avengers, post-Disney Marvel that's, successful and secure, being able to take more risks with the way it adapts its properties. And really, it's the beginning of an exciting and colourful new era for comic book movies.
Marvel have made bolder statements since the Mandarin twist. There have been tons. For comic book fans, there have been changes that might irk them. The Mandarin was the MCU's way of saying, hey, we're here, we're going to play. And I respect them so much for that. So, that was our one marvellous scene. Short, sweet, simple, but we love it. If you want to know more about what myself and Matt think about the Marvel Cinematic Universe or any big pop culture films that are coming out at the moment, games, music, you name it, we've chatted on about it because we're all going to die one day. We may as well make the talk interesting before we go. Then please subscribe to the Big Damn channel. You can also check out our Big Damn Cast podcast every week, Thursday on iTunes, SoundCloud and the podcast app, Friday here on YouTube. And you get in touch with us with anything you like at bigdamncontact@gmail.com. That's probably one of you now. A massive thank you to Nando V Movies, Mr. Sunday Movies, everybody who got together and created the One Marvelous Scene playlist. You inspired us to join the conversation. And if you guys want to talk conversationally or just write yeet in all capitals, please do so down below in the comments. Goodbye.